Wow.
I made it here, and now we're having real talk with Brewton.
We are. We are. Here we are, my friend. It's good to see you. It's been a few weeks.
I know it was a
Hi,
few
Katie.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
We went to
So
Miami to watch tennis. We went
I
to
know.
the Miami Open
I
to
know.
see elite athletes playing tennis. It was pretty
Yes. Alcaraz
amazing.
lost, man. Alcaraz lost the other night. Actually, another friend of mine was actually at the match. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I was watching the match here. We didn't stay that
Mm.
long to see Alcaraz lose,
Mhm.
but yeah, it was a bummer. He is still an elite tennis player.
He is.
Yeah.
He sure
He
is, man.
like, he is able to move around and, he's able to see things ahead of time, which is another good entrepreneurial trait to
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
And so how has your journey been going? What's going on with you the last 3 weeks?
Just a lot of work, man. A lot of work. A lot of consulting. A lot of operating founder sessions. A lot of writing. I'm launching the school community for the operating founders group this week, so that's exciting. And I've been building out all the curriculums. I kind of got a little ambitious in my thinking about that, and didn't quite calculate exactly how much work was going to be involved in putting that together. So I'm a little late on getting that out, but I hope my folks will forgive me. But I'm really excited to be releasing it this week, and I actually have three different highly digestible like course curriculums and that I'm releasing with it and for the founders group. And yeah, it'll be great. I'm really excited to learn. I'm a learner by doer, Dennis. I'm as you know, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, I want to figure out how to do this. I'll do a little research. I'll try to figure out what's going on, best practices, those kinds of things. But I often find, and I'm curious what you think about this. I like reading about best practices and going down a rabbit hole on how to learn something and do something just as much as anyone does. However, I also I also find that a problem with that is that I often get so far ahead of myself in my thinking. I start future tripping. It's like you can't dwell on the past, and you can't, and you can't like get too far ahead of yourself into the future, or else like your present is just kind of highly unactionable. And so I need to get in there and do it. I need to get in and create a curriculum. I need to make a post. I need to write the article that's the concept or structure I've been thinking about and get it out there in the world and then see, what people think and get feedback. You need to get feedback loops going. And so sometimes I think that looks a little messy in the immediate. Um, but I find if I'm transparent about it and communicate well around what I'm trying to do, that people are understanding, and I find that I end up getting to a better solution faster when I just kind of get into the doing of things. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it works.
Yeah, man.
It's not a John Bruton or Dennis Berry thing. It's a
No.
human
Yep.
law. It's a universal law.
Yeah.
It's like there's very few people that it's like when you go to doctor
Mhm.
for medical school,
Mhm.
uh, you go to what is it, 4 years, and then there's 3 years of medical, and then there's like 12 years or 7 years
Yeah.
or whatever of
Yeah.
uh of practical stuff. So it's like you don't get out of medical school and you're a doctor, you have to do your practical, what's it called? Residency. You have to
Right.
do all
Yep.
that stuff. And after over a decade of school, you become a doctor.
Mhm.
And I went to culinary school at 35, almost
Mhm.
35 years ago,
Mhm.
and you don't get out of culinary school and you're a chef. And
No.
I was with a lot of kids who had that false expectation. Also,
Yeah.
you learn knowledge and you get out of
Yeah.
culinary school, and then you go work and you become
Yeah.
a chef.
Well, so I'm so curious about that because I have friends who have gone to culinary school and uh, anytime I hear an entrepreneur bring up wanting to start a restaurant, I advise strongly, strongly against it. Yeah, it's a very, very difficult industry, and I've had a couple friends who have succeeded in it, but typically they succeed by having like multiple restaurants, and that's kind of where the money is. But however, uh, when you come out of culinary school, do you become like a line cook or like a sous chef? Like, walk me through the hierarchy of how that works because I know there's a very clear kind of, order of operations with that. Or no,
There
is
is
there not?
not a clear
There's
order
not.
up. No, it really depends on who you are. Like when I went to culinary school, I was working in restaurants already for 4 years.
Uh-huh.
And then I got there and there was kids there that were 17, 18 years old
Yeah,
that um didn't even know how to hold a knife properly. And so
sure.
we're all at different stages and they thought it and then they never worked in a real restaurant, a real kitchen,
Mhm.
and they didn't last a month. Like,
Yeah,
you cook pancakes for your parents for breakfast, and they're like,
yeah,
"You could be a chef," and so they go to culinary school and realize they're like, "Oh my god, this is really hard, it's a lot of work." You work Christmas and New Year's when everybody else you know is with
you
their
do.
families and partying, and
Weekends.
for like
Yeah.
$7 an hour. You're like,
Yep.
it's a tough road. However,
Yeah.
like, when you talk about I can talk about this, intelligently because 'cause I've been through it all, but people are like whenever I cook a lot, like, all
Mhm.
the time, and
Nice.
a good skill that I have, it's
Yeah.
fun, I enjoy it now because I don't have to do it for a living, but there
Right.
are ways to make it work. It's hard, like, I let's talk about this, this is great.
Mhm.
Years ago, in 1957, my
Mhm.
grandfather started a window manufacturing company in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey,
Cool.
and he made millions of
Right.
dollars in the '50s, '60s, '70s, and
Wow.
you can't start a window manufacturing company now. There's Anderson Windows. You need to have a group of investors. You need to raise
Yeah.
$1 billion, and you need to be in order to be competitive in a window
Yeah.
manufacturing company. You need to be
Yeah.
able to supply your company. You need, the
Sure.
supply chain, which is extremely expensive right now and
Sure.
forever will be.
Yep.
So, same thing with restaurants. It's really hard to open a restaurant now because you don't there's your competition is investment groups that open 1,000 restaurants around
Right.
the country. And
Right.
so what I say is this, is like, if you wanna open a restaurant and you have cash to
Mhm.
do that, then
Yeah.
go ahead. If you have $1,000,000 to, uh, you know, if not buy the building, then, get a really good deal on it and buy
Yeah.
all your equipment, not finance it all,
Yeah.
and hire people to train the way you need the restaurant to run instead of you working 90 hours a week, and it's really hard to do that. But it's really hard to do any business that way,
Yeah.
like, getting any business off the ground, restaurants is great.
Mhm.
Example to use, but,
Mhm.
I mean, I think a lot of people if anybody's here that's, starting to write now, they're just starting
Mhm.
their online journey now, you're finding that, oh, it's like, you start cooking in a restaurant, you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna open a restaurant." You realize it's
Mhm.
extremely hard, and
Yeah.
it's not as hard to write an article as it is to manage 100 people in a restaurant on a
I don't know
Friday.
why you'd wanna do that. I don't know. I just don't know why. I don't know. I mean,
For me, it was a
may
lifestyle
yeah.
decision, like, I partied, I skied every day, so I needed to work. So I wanted to
You
ski
need to
every
work
day,
at night. Yeah. So that's
so
we yeah, so
I
you go
started
yeah.
working in
Okay.
restaurants.
Alright.
Yeah,
That's fair. Yeah, that makes sense.
but if I
Huh.
was in a city, I would never work in a restaurant.
It's so I'm so boring, like, I have friends or folks, clients will come to me, they wanna thinking about starting a new business, maybe they've built one successful one, they wanna start the next one. They come and they say, "Oh, I have $100,000." I don't know, 1,000,000 maybe, but, they have some money to invest into it, and they say, like, "What would you do? How would you like, where would you go? Like, what sector would you go into?" And I have to tell you, I probably get asked that question, let's say 10 times a year, and 9.78 times out of 10, my answer is, I think you should put all 100,000 in a Vanguard S&P 500 index fund and, and then, go start an online business. I mean, I think like, I just like, it's just the yeah, I always get nervous, because I feel like there's a lot of stress, and on Real Talk here, we talk a lot about, like, the mental side of operating a company and the psychology of that, and I think whenever I hear about businesses that are capital intensive, um, I think about stress. Um, I operated a company that had we were financed, self-financed and then with bank loans, and, and so, a sizable line of credit. Um, and there are covenants, and there are bank auditors that come multiple times a year to audit your books and to look at things and to do all this. And I I just think starting a company is such a stressful thing to do because you have to go. It's not 0 to 1. Uh, People get confused about that a lot, but but you do have to go from something to nothing. Anything that's going to happen is going to be because of your decision making and your work and how you leverage that work in your time into, some outcome or product or service that people want to buy. And I just think adding the need for lots of money to be raised, to be loaned to you, or to be used that you've spent all these years saving. Man, not that there aren't companies where that makes all the sense in the world, and that there aren't great outcomes that could come from that. But man, I shy away from that, uh, uh, quickly, just because I've lived the stress of that, of having, the loans and the lines of credit and the bank covenants and all those things, and we did those things very well. However, that doesn't mean there's not a lot of stress that comes with that. And I feel like building a business, and you need a clear head to think strategically and to execute and to let time to let the days pass as you're doing the work and all that. And when you have stress, it's so hard. It distracts you, and it forces you, I think, to make sometimes decisions at a faster rate than is maybe prudent. So talk to me about that, because I feel like that's like so, like, I know you've had that experience too, like that. What happens under stress? What happens to business decision making under stress?
Yeah, stress is a killer, but the best way
Yeah.
through it is action. Well, first of all,
Yeah.
the best way through it is to don't start in debt. That's the best way
Right.
to do a business, and what a great time for anybody listening who's starting to build some sort of business audience or whatever it is you're doing on
Yeah.
Substack, LinkedIn, or whatever wherever you are. They all
Mhm.
have value, all these social media networks,
Sure.
but it's so much better. Like if you know you want to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant, or some degree specific field, and you have money to go to school and not start in debt,
Mhm.
then go to college. It's a great experience. I went to my first 4 years. I really shouldn't have because all I do is get drunk and stone. But I learned a lot about other things, but I didn't learn a lot about school. I didn't
Right.
go to school much, and but for a lot of people that are going because they think it's a nice idea, and you come out with this debt, and now you have to pay debt, and you're getting a job in a recession economy. Everybody says it's not, but it's about to be. Then
I
that's
disagree.
that's really stressful,
Yeah.
and so and that'll be another talk after we're done. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with the business. If you're gonna go to college and spend 4 years learning something and you're not gonna
Mhm.
be a doctor or a lawyer or some sort
Mhm.
of specific field, spend 4 years where you can build something that generates income. So if you ever
Yeah.
read Rich Dad Poor Dad, you wanna invest
Yeah.
in assets. You wanna invest in assets,
Yeah.
something that generates money. Like buying a
Mhm.
house with a 30-year mortgage isn't asset, right?
Mhm.
That's a
The debt.
liability unless it's generating more income, which it probably isn't, than your
Right.
loan.
Right.
So it's the same thing with a business. It's like start uh, learning how to do it. What you were talking
Mhm.
about earlier,
Yeah.
uh, taking the action. The
Mhm.
action is the only way through the stress. Like if
Yeah.
you have I started my meetings. I'm doing the same thing you did for those who know, like what
Yes.
he, John gave me his permission too. So I started having my meetings
But you're
last week.
Dennis Barry, man. You're like you're not me. You're your own thing. You provide a whole other world of value that I can't provide. So it's
It's a
great.
little different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different, but I mean, you're smarter. I value your
I'm not
expertise
smart.
more than mine.
I'm an idiot. My wife will
But
tell you that. She'll tell you what
yeah,
an idiot I am.
no, yeah, boys are good at that. Um, so, but what I would say is the biggest thing is this.
Mhm.
If you wanna get successful at business or
Yeah.
anything or riding
Yeah.
a bike,
Yeah.
like, when we start something, there's the idea of the end game, like what's going to happen at the end, the Ferrari, the martinis, and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
then we come up against something hard.
Yep.
Success comes from getting through the hard, and
Yeah.
everybody is stuck on the hard. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, like all these people that we look
Mhm.
at and they're like, oh, they got lucky or something happened. All they did, it's like you get through the hard.
Mhm.
I want everybody to write that down. Like, if you wanna be successful, all you have to do is get through the hard. We're
Mhm.
all human. We all have the same exact 24 hours in a day.
Mhm.
Nobody
Yeah.
has 24 hours in 1 minute.
Sure.
Nope.
Yeah.
And so if you spend your it's how you spend those 24 hours that
Mhm.
determines your success. If you get up what happens is this, especially today more than ever, is
Mhm.
you get up against the wall. You're
Mhm.
like, "I'm gonna do these 10 things."
Mhm.
And you start doing them, and one of them is really hard. You don't know how to do it. And that's where the 9 out of 10 or 99 out of 100 quit, or they go start doom scrolling or watching YouTube videos or porn or playing video games or
Mhm.
watching Netflix. And all of a sudden, your life's
Yeah.
passing. All you have to do is figure that thing out. And now
Mhm.
you can just ask ChatGPT, how do I get through this hard thing right now?
You can.
And
You can.
in most cases,
Mhm.
you could figure it out.
Mhm.
And that's if you do that,
Mhm.
if you do that, and then after you get through that hard, which could take 5 minutes or 5
Mhm.
weeks, then
Sure.
the next hard thing, and do the
Sure.
next hard thing, and
Yeah.
then if you keep doing that for a
Yeah.
year or 2,
Yeah.
you're gonna be in the 5%, and if you keep
Yeah.
doing that for 10 or 20 years,
Mhm.
you'll be the 1%. That's how
Yeah.
you do it. It's not a
Yeah.
huge secret,
No. I'm curious. Couldn't agree more. Um,
and
I'm
if you
thinking.
don't do the hard
Mhm.
if you don't
Yeah.
do the hard,
Yeah.
that's where stress comes from. To answer your question from
Yes.
10 ago
Correct.
about stress,
Yeah.
you don't do the hard.
Mhm.
The hard like, stress doesn't come from the hard thing, it comes
Mhm.
from not figuring out the hard thing.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. I'm curious. Stress and the finances and things, and I think it's. I was watching a video in the last week. With that, I saw a video with Chamath Palihapitiya, the All In podcast guy, and I think he was like he was early at Facebook and had a senior leadership role and think in operations, and I think he also really helped to optimize their feed for how addictive it is, from what I understand. But anyway, guy's really super successful guy, financially. He did a video on YouTube. It's a great video, definitely worth watching. Um, Quite honestly, to me, it basically felt like he read uh, Poor Charlie's Almanac and then just kind of regurgitated it as his own. Um, and I'm sure these were his own thoughts and feelings, and the video is beautifully done. However, uh, he was talking about like avoiding debt and lifestyle relative to debt and all that. And yes, I agree with it wholeheartedly. I agree with every word he said during that segment. However, I don't know. I think the guy's worth $1 billion or whatever he's worth. It's more money than anyone will need for 10 lifetimes. Um, and so it kind of like didn't really hit with me because I was like, oh well, like I mean, yes, I see the success, and so he's saying this is crucial to success, and so if I do that thing, then I will be successful like him. I get that. However, I think about my own experience, and I remember very clearly walking along when I was like 23, 24, 24. I was in Boston, and I just got a credit card offer, and I said yes, and the credit card offer it came with a $2,700 credit limit. Um, and I had money and I was in school actually at the time. I didn't go to college right out of high school, and but I had a $2,700 credit limit. I was like, oh wow, and I didn't like I understood how credit cards work, but I never had one of my own. That had a limit like that on it, or maybe even maybe it was my first one. So anyway, I had a wedding coming up, and so I went to the Barney's department store in Boston, which was a very bougie department store that is no longer in existence. And I bought a $1,200 Dolce and Gabbana suit to wear to the wedding. And I put it on the credit card. Uh, I think I bought a fancy pair of shoes too. And, I gotta tell you, that that debt stuck with me for, like, the next 4 or 5 years. I was paying that off, and I was, I was living in Boston. I was, whatever. I was trying to figure it out. I wasn't making a lot of money. Made money all through college, put myself through college, but was trying to figure it out. And so, however, what I've learned, and then if I look over my own life financially, and if I look at my own life in general, I think it's like ups and downs, man. It's like, okay, cool, pay off the debt, then make all the really right decisions that the Tony Robbins book told me to do, or that, that Warren Buffett told me to do, or whatever, and do that successfully for a group of years. Then something happens, and I start making bad decisions with it, and then there's some more debt again, and then I get out of the debt, and then and on and on. And I'm 45 now. I've been in a very good place for a group of years at now. But when I look back to kind of those formative years from like 20 to 35, 36, in there, it's not only the ability to get into action, it is the ability to accept that at times you're going to shift into the place where you start making all the really good decisions, and that feels good, and that you're going to relapse into bad decision making. And you need to not y- you need to know how to stop that, not shame yourself over it, and then move forward and get better at it. And what I can say about myself at 45 is I'm very good if there's a problem. I'm very good at turning things around. I'm very good at adjusting. And so now with family and kids and things, everything's about them, and so it becomes uh so my poor decision making has like dramatically dropped. Um but I know I can do that. I know I can pivot. Um And so I'm just curious what you think about that, because sometimes I think we think, "Oh, I will make this good decision once, make this change, and then it will always be that way because Chamath Palihapitiya has always been that way, or Charlie Munger was, or Warren Buffett was, or whatever." And like that's just not aligned with my experience. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the human condition, right?
Yeah,
Life ebbs and flows.
yeah,
There's
absolutely.
good times, bad times, there's
Yeah,
love, there's heartache,
yeah,
there's health problems,
yeah.
there's people cycle in and out of our lives. I mean, it's just part of life, and I think that there's also a difference between good debt and bad debt, which is, probably
Sure.
another discussion, but,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I get you, man. I mean,
Yeah,
I've been through everything that you just talked about. I went through
yeah.
bankruptcy years
Oh wow.
ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I've
Yeah.
been through it all, and
Yeah.
I think that I think that you don't get to be 30 years old without going
Mm,
through some of this stuff. Now, the ones who become successful after that are the ones that learn the lessons.
yeah.
That's the real trick, is like,
Okay.
okay, I know that story, not your story, but it's a common story. It's like, oh, the credit
Sure.
card. Now,
Sure.
I think it is
Of
really
course.
one of the biggest sources of the biggest problems in the whole world is credit. And we used to have it used to be like, uh, traveling was for the rich and famous. You know,
Mhm.
flying on an airplane 50 years ago was really just for really wealthy people. And now,
Right.
and buying nice cars and all the and houses, and credit is really the source of a lot of the problems in the world.
I agree.
You know, like
Yes.
when you go buy a house, they're like, "Oh, you're qualified for $300,000." Well, that means that you should buy a house for $200,000.
Right.
But no, we're like, "Let's go look at the ones that are 350 and see if we can make that work." And then you
Sure.
can't do anything. And that's
Sure.
where credit becomes a real problem, especially with, if you don't have money, they give you a huge interest rate. If you have money, then you can do anything you want, but nobody has money, right? So they're borrowing everybody's leverage up to their eyeballs, and that's the biggest problem. And then we don't learn the lessons. So
Mhm.
something, money comes in, money goes out, money comes in, money goes out, and life ebbs and flows that way. I totally understand what you're saying, and I
Yeah.
think it's a good lesson
Well,
to
and
hear. We look at the perfection, everybody on
mhm,
Instagram, all these videos, and
mhm,
everybody else has a perfect life except me, and
mhm,
that causes a lot of stress also, I think. It's like, if I
Mm.
I set out to do something because I wanna be like John, and I if I can't do it that day, then now I'm depressed, and so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go eat a bunch of stuff or get drunk,
Yeah.
or maybe I start out and I start getting close, and then I hit a wall, and I can't
Sure.
figure it out, and now I'm a loser.
Right. Yeah.
That's the
It's interesting too. I think a lot of folks on this chat would also probably identify with this. Um, I know I've struggled with this. I think anyone who's been on LinkedIn has struggled with this. Everyone talks about Instagram and the perfect, the perfect grid and the perfect life and like all that kinds of man. I agree about Instagram. I'm not even on Instagram because I basically just don't want to deal with that. But but I got to tell you, I think LinkedIn is like the top of the heap in terms of the pressure people feel to look perfect and say all the right things, right? Because it's stressful. Like all the recruiters are there, all the employers are there, all my colleagues are there, and the colleagues are weird because colleagues are like, are they my friend or are they like, no, they're kind of like this acquaintance who like will be my friend while we're working in this thing, but then the moment like I get fired or I leave or they leave or something like they're gonna talk shit. It's a very weird. I think LinkedIn's very weird in that way because I think there's a lot of pressure that we all feel when in working with all the folks I'm coaching this year. There's so much pressure to figure out the balance of like, oh my God, this post is gonna go out and my boss is going to see it, or a potential future boss, or the CEO of some company I want to work with is going to see it. So what? I have to sound really, really smart. I have to sound really smart. I have to express the full scope of my perspective on every issue I bring up. I don't want to sound silly or stupid or whatever. I got to tell you guys something. You want to feel better about yourself and feel okay about what you're posting. Go look at my LinkedIn content on any week. Like, I mean, I'm all in on what I do, but like like I know I post some things out there that other folks would not do because of those fears, understandable fears and insecurities that we all have. But I don't ever hear anyone talk. I hear everyone talking about Instagram and that side of it. I don't hear people talking about that same pressure on LinkedIn, which I think is very real. Does anyone on this chat agree with me? Please,
yeah.
someone agree with
Well,
me.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
know
I
I'm right
mean,
about that.
I've spent years, like almost 10
Yep.
years on
Yep.
LinkedIn, so I
Me
get
too.
that pain,
Yeah, man.
for sure, and I know it exists, and especially in certain communities. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, well, you were like, "Oh, yeah, my boss or my coworker or this and that
Oh,
needs to be perfect." Like,
yeah.
I'm working with people in the medical field now, and
Mhm.
it is rough in that
Yeah, man.
they're hard on each other. There's, like, enemies.
Medical's
It
brutal, man. They're brutal. And
it
you know what's interesting about medical too? A lot of doctors, they become specialized. They're like these world-class experts in their particular medical field. However, uh, they often then think that because they succeeded in getting through medical school, they will also be successful business people, and they don't understand that that's a completely different skill set and that they have to learn and adapt to, which doesn't mean they can't, but there are a lot of doctors I met who just kind of walk into the room and you know, they just assume that they got the business thing down too, and they often don't.
No, in
Just
fact,
I
most
know.
don't, and
Yep.
it's the same in any industry.
Yep,
Uh, and we've talked about that in the past. It's like,
we have.
"Oh, I'm a very good, uh, doctor, lawyer,"
Yeah,
fill in the blank, accountant. Actually, accountants are usually good because they're very number
yeah,
oriented. But, a lot of people, whatever there's a difference between doing your skill and your craft and running a
yeah,
business. 2
yeah,
different things. And
right.
people don't realize that. So you're like, there's really talented lawyers and really talented doctors or dentists or whatever, and they'll start a practice and it fails because they don't know how to run a business. In fact, one of my clients right now, Michael, he talks about, he says all the time, "I wish they taught us more about the business part in school," because he
Yeah,
struggled with it and he had to learn a lot, and he learned it all because he's crazy. He works 20 hours a day, like me.
yeah,
Right, he likes working with me because
mm.
I work. You work. It's not work. It's just like it's Dennis. Like we work. We
But I think that's here's what I would say. I think that's a good it's a good thing to hit on. Um, I think a lot of folks as we're building these businesses online, building small businesses, building pizza shops, building gyms, building, you know, yoga practices, whatever it is we're doing. Um, we step into the entrepreneurial space because we think about freedom, and we look at some of the folks online. I know for me early on online, I was looking at Justin Welsh and what he had done, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I immense respect for what he's done. I really, and I like the practicality of what he talks about in terms of how to do it. However, um, I was raised in an entrepreneurial household, and then ran that household's business or eventually ran it, but was a part of it for like 12, 13 years of my working life. And what I will say is that yes, it comes with freedom, to do what you want to do, go where you want to go. You're the boss. However, uh, it also comes with an extraordinary requirement about the numbers of hours of work. Most of it, if a person's business isn't succeeding, my first assumption is that there just are not enough hours of work being done. Um, yeah, yes, they need to be productive, but time spent matters a lot, and so I don't just talk about that. There's the freedom which we all get excited about, um, being our own boss. However, uh, you know, if you're gonna start something and expect to have much of any balance in your life, for a while, I think that's probably, maybe not the best conclusion to reach. What do you think?
Absolutely, it's an unpopular truth.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, people
Yep.
don't wanna hear that, and, this is why it's important to be in alignment with who you
Mhm.
are, and I was talking about this yesterday. There's,
Yep.
like, we were all conditioned to be a certain thing by our
Mhm.
parents, teachers, and stuff, and it is all
Sure.
their fault. It's their fault
Yeah.
about whatever, but it's our responsibility to change it. And
Sure.
what we have to really realize that, and fault is a bad word, but it is true. But we have to first of all realize what happened. Is like we were programmed to live in, like drive to work, get a job in a cubicle, and do your 40 hours, get a check and insurance and all that stuff. But
Sure.
if that system, well, one, it doesn't really fit in. It still does work, but if you're here listening to this, you probably understand that part already. If you're
Mhm.
on this chat or listening to this recording later or whatever, you probably understand that, and you want to be doing something different.
Mhm.
And so, like yesterday, let's use my yesterday for example. I told you I was writing at 11 o'clock.
Mhm.
I also took a nap yesterday.
Mhm.
So, it's like I wake up really early and I start writing, I'm answering emails, I'm doing all my things, I
Mhm.
exercise, like, this is my
Mhm.
life. You have to set up a lifestyle, and it
Sure.
needs to be something that you love doing, and then
Mhm.
I'm working, I work for a couple hours, I went to the gym, or I
Mhm.
went for a run actually yesterday, and
Mhm.
then I had 4 meetings
Mhm.
yesterday,
Sure.
4, which wiped my brain out.
Yeah.
They just sucked all the energy out of my brain, and I had
Mhm.
to take a nap.
Yeah.
And then I have a pool, I went swimming, and then I had to work for another, like, 6 hours. And
Mhm.
so it's not so the point of me telling that story is, like, I work 16 hours a day, probably,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
also take naps and go
Mhm.
swimming, and I live near the beach. Sometimes I go to the beach, and
Sure.
you have to set your life up that way, and you need to have a partner if you want a partner
Mhm.
who understands that lifestyle also.
Yeah.
And then eventually, it's not like this grind. It's just who you are, and you have to
Yes.
become one with that,
Mhm.
and if you until you become one with that, then it's like, "What am I doing?" And that's that uncertainty, which is popular to talk
Mhm.
about now,
Yeah.
which I really love that that's popular to talk about now,
Mhm.
because you have to, like, keep trying things. It's like, "Oh, I don't know how to publish on Substack." Well, figure it out. And now
Mhm.
you're gonna once you figure it out, then you're gonna know how to publish on Substack. And then you're gonna know how to cross-reference that. And so that you're gonna know how to set up your email systems and
Yeah.
sequences. And you're gonna know how to,
Mhm.
set up a lead magnet and capture people and have workflows.
Yeah. I think,
It takes time to do all that stuff.
it does, and I think that the fear is, well, I will publish something and then everyone's going to see it. The whole world's going to see it. Um, we basically we index our faith and our beliefs around that, around like the one story we hear about the person whose first post went viral on TikTok and got 47 million views and like whatever. And we don't realize that that what is actually going to happen when you start posting is you're going to get 11 views, maybe 5. You're going to get, like a good post is going to be like 67. And so like it's it all and so what that means is that not everyone who follows you, not everyone sees your stuff. For instance, in the last week, I've had a very productive week on LinkedIn. I like where my content is over there right now. It's performing well for me. And however, I haven't had a single post in the last week that is over 28,000 impressions. I'm thrilled with having 4 or 5 posts that are all 15, 20,000 impressions. You know, I'm a small fry compared to you, but but I'm thrilled with that. But the reality is this: I got 36,000 and some followers over on LinkedIn. That means that not one thing that I did in the last week over there was seen by even close to everyone who actually follows me. And so it's um it's this fear of everyone's going to see it because it's public, but you don't realize that there's the constraint that the algorithm will put on your reach is the thing that allows you to start experimenting and trying things and not being seen and judged. Because when you start, you don't know how to make good content. And the platforms actually know how to identify and then push good content. And so so yeah, I really wish people would just start doing it and being a little less fearful and understand that no one's gonna see for a while. It's
And nobody
no
cares.
one's
And remember, let's go back to alignment. It needs whatever you're posting and whatever your metrics are, they need to be in alignment with your goals. Like my goal, like the reason I have 100 or 200,000 or
Mhm.
more impressions on my post, but they're not turning into clients, all of them. And
Yeah.
they're like, that's something we could talk about
Right.
maybe next week or another time. Like
Uh,
what I post is growth type, inspirational, motivational, top
mhm,
of funnel type content that's
mhm,
designed to reach a lot of people and get 2,000 likes on my post. But those people don't turn into paying clients, not right
mhm,
now. And
mhm,
then what I do is I funnel them into Substack. So
mhm,
you are writing a different type of content that's not meant to reach 200,000 people.
mhm.
So,
Right.
you know, and I think people need to understand that. It also took me
Mm,
a couple years before I started getting,
mhm.
thousands of likes
Right.
on my
Can I
post.
can I show you something? This will be very funny. This
Yeah,
will be
sure.
very funny along these lines. You will laugh. All right, I'm gonna share my screen.
It's cool because share screens now.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's share screen. Okay, so oh, hold on. Hold on,
Yeah,
folks. Hold on. Okay, can everyone see that? Can you see
yeah, yeah.
the LinkedIn post? All right, Dennis, this was my first infographic on LinkedIn, 2
Nice.
years ago. Uh, I'm pretty sure I did it in PowerPoint, um, and because I was like, "I don't know how they're making these," so I did it in PowerPoint, and what I wanted to tell was the story of, like, Bob Iger does the iTunes deal with Steve Jobs and the iPod release so that eventually he could get to the place where he could buy Pixar, and, I mean, it's an incredible story, but that was, like, my goal, and I thought that this communicated that, but I just want to be able to say and you can see, 4 likes and 3 comments. Well said. Thanks, Vishal. But like, I mean, it's and look at this too. This is, yep. And then I start linking out to books and things on here, which did I'm sure worlds for my reach on this one. And anyhow, my point is this. That's like that's very funny. Like that's really, really, really bad.
That's nice.
And it's like, but like that, it's fun. Like it's the point is this. At that moment in time, I was like, "Oh, this is great." And so we'll see what it does. Because I was like, "Oh, this story is so important to tell." And now, now the infographics look, a lot better than that. But I wouldn't be where I am now with like what I do with the visuals and everything if like I hadn't made this then, and I don't know. I don't know if that helps people, but
Just start
uh,
messy, and that's what people I think people get stuck on there and the unreasonable expectations, or they're afraid to hit publish
yeah,
or ship it because
yeah.
it's not, like, perfect, but, it's like you're not the same person. Like, you have to just
No.
be you and grow into who it is you wanna become, yeah, and it takes
No.
time. And
Absolutely.
eventually you'll be close to that. I go back and look at I don't do it frequently, but I'll see some stuff from, like, 10 years ago. You know,
Mhm.
I used to I I figured out, the possibilities of LinkedIn, like, almost 10 years ago now,
Yep.
and it was exciting, and then I started doing people were asking me to do presentations about how to use LinkedIn to sell, and I had, like, 1,000 followers, and
Mhm.
I was like and if you go back and look at the posts I had, and I was doing
Yeah.
presentations on how to
Yeah.
use LinkedIn to sell, they were ridiculous.
Yeah.
Completely ridiculous, and then
Yeah.
I also have Mickey Mouse posts and "Have a beautiful day, I love you," and all these types of things, and
Yeah, man.
it's just like you start and figure it out and enjoy
Yeah.
the process. Like,
Yeah.
how happy were you when you put that infographic together and the Mickey Mouse and Steve Jobs, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it was probably fun, and it's supposed
Yeah.
to be fun. It's not
Yeah.
supposed to be fun 24 hours a day,
No.
but
But
you should
it was the first time I tried to make one where I was trying to, like, visually tell a story. Like, everything before was like, "Oh, here's a picture. Here's a here's just a graphic with a title so you know a subject." But it was the first time where I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell a story." So,
yeah.
I mean, the other thing too is for anyone on this, don't delete your old content. Keep it. Keep it up there, because it's really because maybe you'll be on a live or something years later and you can show it, and then it's hopefully it's helpful. So,
It
I
is,
tell you
yeah.
what yeah, I tell
Well,
you what,
no,
my friend,
that's
I
great.
gotta yeah,
And, I wanna say one more thing about,
yeah, of
like,
course.
imperfect content is,
Yeah, sure.
like, it's funny, I think Sam wrote something about it recently, and we talk
Yeah,
about it every once in a while. It's like, the ones like, when I'll write a post and I'll be like, "This is a good freaking article. Oh my god.
oh, yeah.
Can't wait for
No one
everybody to read
cares.
that." And it's crickets. Yeah, like, 7 people like the thing,
Exactly.
and then I'm
Every
like,
time, man, every
"Shit."
time.
I'm like, "Oh my god, I have 20 minutes and I have, like, 4 meetings ahead. I'm just
Yep.
gonna publish this one."
Uh,
And boom, it goes viral. So, it's like, just post your shit. Stop worrying about what people think because they're not thinking about you. They're all worried about what their lives and their debt and,
yeah,
like, their
yeah,
relationships and stuff. Just
yeah,
do it. Find something
yeah,
you love to do or talk about and
yeah,
start writing about it.
yeah.
And the right people are gonna latch on, and then
Mm,
from there you'll figure out how to put your business together, not
yeah,
before, not like, "Oh, I'm gonna wait until I have everything in alignment and
right,
then start a business." It's
right,
never gonna happen, and you can waste
right,
10 years of life.
right. Well, I think it's also it's funny. It's like when you go out in the world and you have to. I mean, look, we do all this content and everything, but ultimately we're trying to sell products, sell courses, sell consulting services, make people aware of who we are and what we do, so that they might want to work with us. Um, and the thing is, at the point in time where you start trying to get people's attention, my experience has been that that process has first and foremost taught me how little anyone on the whole earth is even thinking about me. Like no one's thinking about me. No one knows me. No one's thinking about me. Like and you learn that as you try to get people's attention. You also realize once you try to do that and you start succeeding, how fleeting the attention is. And like that's good. Like people have much more important things to do than think about, operating by John Bruton. Um but when they do think about it, I'd like it to be helpful or enjoyable, entertaining or whatever it is. But yeah, man, it's a very funny thing.
Let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
Also, what we were just talking about
Mhm.
is I have 200,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I am so popular. I'm Dennis. And then I go and I launch this offer on Substack and I'm like, oh, like I'm getting more activity.
Yeah.
$99. Like I have clients paying me upwards of $20,000 a month to work with me.
Yep.
And I'm doing this for $99. It's a crazy deal. I know it. You know it too, but nobody else knows it. Like,
Yep.
it's really, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm going to have like lots of people sign up. Nobody cares. Do you know that
Right.
for 7 years? Sorry, my dog is on my lap. For 7 years, my logo and my whole brand was orange and red. And
Oh, I
then,
didn't know that. I had no idea.
oh, and yes. And I was like, about a year and a half ago or so, I was like,
Mhm.
you know what happened was somebody submitted that logo to me like 8 years ago. I didn't
Mhm,
like it. I didn't like the colors orange and red, but the logo
mhm,
was really sharp. So
mhm.
I became the orange dude. Everything I did, I'll show you later, all my content was orange.
Everything is orange.
And a year and a half ago, I was like, "I'm going back to blue." I was like, it's more in alignment
Yeah,
with what I'm doing with finance and business and everything." And I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this." After, like, 7 or 8 years, like,
yeah.
everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my god, Dennis is changing the orange guy, he's changing to blue, like, the world's gonna end." And I one day, we had
Did anyone
everything
say
in
anything?
alignment. It took, like, 2 months to put
Yeah.
everything in alignment, my logos, my banners, everything, and then I had 2 people come up, be like, "Wow, the new stuff looks nice." That was it. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Just do your thing, right? And the same thing with my little offer here and my little deal. It was like the activity, and I want people to understand this. You write it. You're like, all right. I launched my programmer service on
Mhm.
Substack, and people
Yeah.
listening here, you know, I'm doing this. I'm a coach. I'm a consultant. I do this. I help you with AI or your midlife crisis or whatever. And it's like you write one post and the phone doesn't ring.
Right.
That's not how you do business. You wanna get in
Um,
front of as many people as possible.
the
You
volume
talk to
game.
100 people every day.
Yes.
Start writing content every day. I
Yeah.
had to do that too, and I'm so popular, right? And I was like, I went on a Substack live the other day. So if you're starting out, go on a Substack live.
Mhm,
And I went on a Substack live to talk about my offer, and 4
mhm.
people signed up. Since then, nobody, right? It's
Mm,
because you need activity. You
yes,
need to have activity. So I'm gonna
yes,
leave you with that.
yes. I would add, in my closing would be this: when I made my offer in direct relationship to 2 notes and an article going viral on Substack, like, all within days of each other. And so I had hundreds of thousands of impressions on these things. And so that's why I made the offer. Because I was waiting, I wanted to do it. Like, I had virality in the past, especially over on LinkedIn, um, and I didn't have an offer ready, and so I missed it. I was like, "Oh, that's my big miss in this whole thing over the last couple of years." And so I really wanted to be ready, and so that's what I tried to do. But I would say that it's important for people to understand that, like, it's not that the quality of an offer or what I do, what any of us do, is not immensely valuable. I think, 9.9 out of 10 times it absolutely is. It is also about the amount of attention that you're receiving and the number of people who are even aware that the offer exists in the first place. And that's like the reason I sold through the way I did is because of the number of eyeballs on it. And even then, I think it was 0.0003 or 0.003% of everybody who saw my content over that period ended up buying anything. And so it's just it's a volume game, which also speaks to the need to be doing it every single day, to be
Every
writing the
day.
notes every day, writing the articles each week, writing the LinkedIn posts every day at the same time, and engaging with it and engaging with others, and doing all of this so that you have the shot of something hitting and getting a lot of eyeballs, and then you have an offer to release against that. Um, or just so that over time enough people know to be able to sell through. But you could also have a longer term offer. You could have an offer that's out there indefinitely, and then in that case, you just want progressively more and more eyeballs on you for people to buy it. But if you don't get more eyeballs, it won't sell. And that's the challenge of this whole thing. It's not a criticism of anyone if it doesn't immediately hit. It's a function of these algorithms and these platforms and having to play that game, which of course, Dennis, you're a master at. So anyway, cool.
Well, it never ends. Just keep moving, dude. It's like, I think people make an offer, and then they sit there and wait, and there's no waiting. There's
Mhm,
moving. You have to move, and, don't, like, paralyze yourself with stress and anxiety about it and everything, but just keep moving. It's like, "Oh, well, I'm not getting any phone calls." Well, you have to reach out, talk to 100 people
mhm,
every day.
yep,
If you talk to 100 people every day for the next month, you'll make $10,000. I don't know what your offer is. If you have a $5,000 coaching offer
mhm,
and you're not doing any business, if you talk to listen to me, I'm gonna tell you this. If you talk to 100 people a day for the next
mhm,
month,
Mhm.
you'll probably make $10,000. A couple things will happen. One,
Yeah,
you'll
that's a good
talk to
point.
enough people, you're gonna start it's gonna be
That's a really
uncomfortable,
good point.
understand what you do, and then, eventually you'll be able to refine your offer, your pitch, your speech, and
Mhm,
start networking meetings, and then after maybe a couple 100 uh, meetings,
mhm,
you're gonna refine everything. You don't
mhm,
have to meet with 100 people every day, but reach
mhm.
out to 100 people every day. Gary Vee
Yep,
talked about that all the time 15 years ago. That was his
yep,
thing. Talk to 100 people every day. That's why I'm
yep.
telling you, it's not random. I did the same thing. Like, you
Mhm.
could do it on LinkedIn, on Substack. You could do it at DMs. You could do it underneath popular people's posts.
Yep.
Find somebody who does exactly what you do,
Mhm,
like Justin Welsh or some other, people who write in your niche,
mhm,
and if they have a post with, like, 100 comments, go in and comment on the comments,
mhm,
and start striking up conversations,
mhm,
and then those people will turn in not all of them. That's why it's a volume game. You have to talk to 100 people every day.
mhm.
Talking means send a DM, comment on their posts, share their posts on
Yeah,
do all these things, and if you do that for a month or 2 months, you'll probably make 5 or $10,000,
yep.
and that'll solve some of
Amen,
your money problems.
amen. And if you say, "I'm not a salesperson," you need to learn how to sell, which is really a communication game, and a great way to learn how to sell is to go talk to 100 people a month.
That
That I
it'll
mean, that's the everyone talks about the posting and the commenting and everything. How about messaging? How about getting on 15-minute Zoom coffees via your Calendly link over and over and over and over again? Like, that's where it
over
is.
and
And
over.
also go into those meetings not trying to sell anything. Just go into the meetings to talk, to get to know people, to get to understand, explain to people what you're doing, and, you know. Tell you what,
That's it.
brother, I gotta hop.
Yeah, okay, good. It was great talking. We could talk about sales next week. I love that. That's one of my
Yeah,
I
let's do
was
it. That'd be super. Real talk, sales, real talk.
Ooh, alright.
Yeah.
Adios. Bye,
All
everybody.
right.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye, everyone.
You can sign up for my $99 offer if you want. Bye.
Yeah, drop your link.
Oh, yeah, go and sign up for a founding member on my elite leaders, and let's get to work. $99 for one-on-one meetings with me directly. Adios.
See you guys. Bye.
Peace.